I feel for me, maybe there's like a quiet collaboration just because everybody's able to share everything now and you can see things. Um, that there's sort of like this constant like taking of stuff in, and I see, Jeffrey Allen Love do this thing. I'm like, oh, that's a cool way to do it that I definitely would not have thought of on my own.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Panel Perspective here on 9 Panel Grid. As always, I'm joined with Nick from Comic Culture, and today we have the pleasure of talking to the artist and the creator behind books such as Hydra, the Patreon exclusive Panda delivery service, and the recently released Drome, Jesse Lonergan. Man, Jesse, how's it going today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me
Of course.
on.
Yeah, dude, of course, of course. I think we have to kind of jump right in with Drome, right? Because it just came out. It's been in people's hands for a little bit over a week at this point. What's the reception been for you?
Really, really positive. I mean, it feels like the reviews have been really positive, and people are talking about it. It feels like it's very weird in this sort of era we're in of social media where it's like, well, I'm being tagged a lot. I don't. I feel that. I don't know if like the rest of the world is aware of it, but like from my little teacup, it seems like it's doing pretty well, and people are responding to it the way I'd hoped. And uh, yeah, I haven't. It's been pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we'll glow it up a little bit because Nick and I just actually had the pleasure of talking about the book last night, and
Yes.
yeah, we both recently read it. It's an incredible feat of a book. I loved it, and it feels very much like an evolution, like the next story structure of some of those things that I had mentioned, such as Hydra. I
Mhm,
That was
mhm.
definitely a conscious effort here, but how did you feel about, I guess, the looking back on your previous work and seeing kind of where it has come with the culmination of Drome now?
It's always weird looking at previous work. I feel like as a person who makes things, you generally tend to like focus on things that you didn't like or you felt like didn't work or something like that. But like it does feel like I there's been like a steady evolution. Like with Hydra, like I feel like personally, creatively, I made this like huge jump from what I had been doing before that to Hydra, and then with Hydra having the reception that it did, that it got a lot of people's attention within the industry. It was nominated for an Eisner. I sort of got all this encouragement to continue doing that sort of like. I feel like on paper, it's like, yeah, Hydra is a book that shouldn't be able to get in the door at Image Comics. Like all the rules from that people tell you, like, this is how comics work. It's got to fit within the format. It's like, no, this is 56-page one shot.
Mhm.
Like, oh, Image doesn't do that. It's like, yeah, it's also oversized and it also has no words.
Brilliant.
And
Yeah.
like all of those things, I feel like if you were to go in and say that, no one ever would be like, nope. Uh, but it worked out and it happened and it got this positive response. So I got like this encouragement. It's like, oh, you can keep doing that. And so, people wanted to work with me. So I was working with various writers and stuff and sort of continuing to sort of build on those ideas and then also doing personal stuff and build on those ideas. So it's sort of like it just was like all these pieces coming together that sort of allowed Drome to be what it became. And it was, it was something I was working on for 5 years. I mean, sort of consistently working on for 5 years and been like cooking for maybe 10.
Oh wow, okay.
Well, I mean, like I don't know. It's like where does an idea start? Sort of like it's like, well, I had these vague ideas, and I feel some people have like crisp, clear ideas, and it's like, okay, this is the idea. Here we go. And I'm like, maybe there's like a bird And then it's like, no, there's not a bird, and it's like I don't have that sort of like it's all my everything's very fluffy, and it takes a while for it to solidify into something.
Yeah. Well, I know one big consistency between Hedra and Drome and some of the other work as well is just the layouts themselves, the panel design, how it actually becomes part of the story, even maybe even a character, so to speak. Like it's something that we interact with as a reader. And what I love about the fact that there's not a lot of dialogue in the story. First off, there's no confusion about what's going on with the characters, the vibe, the feel, where the story is going. Number one, that's very difficult. Not a lot of people have done that, and I think you've mastered it already in Drome here. What I want to know though is like, do you see? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I see a progression just from an artistic point of view. Your design sense is still there. You're maturing that as well, but like from an artistic perspective, the difference between those two books, leveling up on all accounts, right? For sure, you must have learned tons of lessons and things like that. But that design sense is still there, and I love it.
Yeah, I feel like before Hedra, I had I don't know, like an idea of who I was as an artist that was very sort of like limiting, and I thought of myself as sort of like, I don't know, this indie comics graphic novel guy, and sort of like I don't do sci-fi, I don't do superheroes, I don't like. I feel like within indie comics is sort of like, oh, you don't it's kind of like indie rock or whatever. It's like you don't do guitar leads or anything like that. It's like you don't show off, and sort of like you don't like sort of flex artistic muscles in the same way that like a mainstream artist will do. Like you don't do those like 5-point perspective drawings in your comic about people going to the coffee shop. And so like I felt like I feel like my muscles were sort of underdeveloped, and then the last sort of like 10 years has been me sort of like growing my drawing ability to where I can have this like big visual impactful moment that I think even Hedra had the design, I think, there, but I don't think it had the same sort of level of like craft within like my rendering or composition of an individual panel. I don't think was anywhere near where I was at, and also like coloring. Hedra is the first comic I colored, and it's a very limited coloring because I couldn't do much else. Like that is that like people talk about, it's like, oh, you went with these flat colors. How did you come up with that decision? It's like it's the only thing I knew how to do. Like you know, it's not a, I don't know if it's a decision. It worked out and it supports the story, but like it was what I could do at the time, and I do think it works, but like I have more capabilities now in terms of like coloring than I did, and the same with drawing, I think, as well.
Well, and it kind of goes into that idea that sometimes limitations are like the best part of creativity because it forces you into one mindset and one mode, and you kind of like deliver the best version of what that product is for that time too. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back around to something you said, because while this story doesn't necessarily have a bird in it, it definitely has a space bull. And I wanted to talk about the nature of where, I guess not where that idea came from, because I do feel like it's put on the page in a really great way that makes it very understandable. But Drome has this great story about creationism and a higher power. Was that fully formulated kind of in the idea phase, or did that come, I guess, what came first, the red and blue characters or the higher powers?
Higher powers first. The sort of that sort of like primordial mythological like simple beings, and so actually like when I talk about like the 10 years or whatever, the time I spent before I started working on it, like that bull is something that I had drawn before I sort of knew what the story was, and sort of like having these sort of motifs that I wanted to use and also like with Drome, like the bull, I feel like the bull is there all along, and I almost feel like this is a spoiler. It's like it comes back, like you know,
Yeah.
and I feel like part of the process was like knowing like I want to have this thing that looks like it's the background or it's like a metaphor for what nighttime is,
Hmm.
and then have it move in a different direction than you necessarily expect, and sort of those those kinds of ideas were sort of like in my head, and like these very like I think of like very Greek mythology sort of ideas of like the sky is an entity, like and I think those were the ideas that were sort of swirling around, and then like how how to enter into that world, and like what story within that world came later, and that's where the characters sort of started coming in, um, with like blue and red and yellow.
I mean, I love a good hero's journey, mythology
Hmm.
kind of a story. I mean, like you open the book and you're instantly uh, taken right back to like a Genesis type setting, right? You have
Yeah.
these Cain and Abel analogs in a way as well throughout the
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
which is freaking brilliant. And I really I would love to see more about the character who's just basically like a resurrection man in a way. That
Yeah.
character was
Yeah.
so fun to watch of
There's
all.
there's a yeah, like some people have asked me like, oh, what's next? Are you gonna continue something with it? And I'm like, I think the main characters, I don't know that I have very much more to go with, but that guy, I call him like the twice born man.
Sure.
Okay.
He is like there's plenty of stuff to do with him, and like I have lots of ideas, and also the swordsman character. I
Yeah.
feel like is another one that I could continue on with in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, I didn't want to do like a straight retelling of this stuff. I sort of wanted
Sure.
like these
Yeah.
ideas of like a lot of like dichotomies of sort of like, you know, like when you say Cain and Abel, it's like yeah, there's these two, and they're sort of like
With a twist. Yeah.
equals, but it's like with a twist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the other benefit of creating a story like this, or using those kinds of themes, especially in a dialogueless,
Mhm.
mostly dialogueless
Yeah.
story, is the themes themselves are so instantly resonating, right? Regardless of if
Mhm.
you grew up with that kind of ideology or whatever it might be, like
Yeah.
the pattern of human behavior or whatever is very represented. It's represented well within the story, so
Yeah.
like it's
Oh,
instantly
thanks.
resonating regardless of your upbringing or background. And that was really fun to watch all those twists. Like, because like you said, it's fun to play with stuff that's familiar, but you got to offer something fresh and new and different. And so,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
mission
And
accomplished from there.
thanks. I think also sometimes like I know myself as a creator, like I want to do the layouts, like I want to do like these sort of like pushing it. Not I hesitate to say experimental because I feel I feel like there are definitely things that have been done previously that clearly influence what I do, but like kind of like pushing like this design forward idea of how a page works, and I feel if that's going to push that far in that direction, the story can't also start like going off that way too. Like it's
Sure.
like the story has like these things that can sort of tether you, and it's like okay, now we can have the design weirdness, but I know where I am because
Mhm.
I have a sort of resonance with this aspect of the story, and so that familiarity allowing for experimentation in other aspects,
Yeah.
was definitely part of the story.
Yeah. It helps ground the reader, right? So it gives them
Mhm.
something they can
Yeah,
latch
yeah,
onto while you can play around in the sandbox a
yeah,
little bit. Sure.
yeah. And
Makes
also
sense.
sometimes I feel like I don't know, words get in the way. Sometimes I feel I feel in comics and in movies too. There's been this. I feel like there's this idea that almost like narration is bad, especially in movies, like where it's like,
Mm.
oh, all the dialogue should be people talking to each other, and it's like that's such a slow way to tell information. And when you read, if you read the story of Theseus, there's not much dialogue. Like there's
Right.
not a
Yeah.
lot of people talking to each other.
Yeah.
There's like actions and there's things happening and
Hmm.
there's the art of how it is written, and sort of like I sort of feel with comics it's like, well, I don't need all this talking, and I don't really want to write a bunch of stuff, so I can just have the drawings do it all and have it work that way. um,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it frees it sort of, and it allows it to to have that resonance that maybe if there was a lot of talking, it wouldn't.
It would slow it
I
down. It
don't
would
know if it's a
change the vibe. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
change it. It's, to me sometimes, everybody's seen Child's Play, I
Yeah.
assume. Child's Play to me is a very scary movie until he starts talking. The moment
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
starts talking, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I am not like before that, I'm like, this is messed up. This
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
cool. Like I like this movie's stressing me out, and then he starts
Right.
talking, and I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I got it. And so sometimes I feel like putting those words in all of a sudden like grounds it in like a not a non-beneficial way.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of playing into the beauty of the medium of comics too, because like when you get
Yeah.
overly verbose in comics, or in any medium, really, everything kind of feels like an exposition dump, and that's something you never really get
Mhm.
in, in Hedra or Drome, because it's
Yeah.
spelled out with the visuals, really kind of like crafting that story and following you through the entirety of it.
Yeah, and I'm okay with things being unclear. Like you said it, like
Mhm.
Nick said it was very clear, but I'm also like, I'm okay with it being unclear sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I always sort of like it in a book or a comic where I go back and I'm like what did that mean? Like what was that moment where it doesn't feel like it's a flaw? It's just a, like I'm like I'm not really sure how I should react to that thing that I just saw. And I always find that, I don't know, more engaging with me as opposed to something I just like, I got it, I understand it in total.
Yeah.
So
There is that fun area. It's that Goldilocks zone where like things are a little bit
yeah,
unfamiliar. It makes
hmm
you kind of go back a couple pages sometimes and try to
yeah,
recontextualize something now that you know more. There's plenty of books out there. We do deep dives on comics and we talk about some complicated issues and stuff in series, trying to piece it all together. That's part of the fun that we have with comics is just that aspect of
yeah.
it too. But I'll tell you one thing that your books do, which I really really love. And we had our mutual friend Marty. We've had him on here before, Marty Keen,
Oh yeah,
um, talking about how you can spend a day drawing a page, but the reader
yeah,
can take 1 second to flip through it. So
right,
again, one of the benefits right here is you're using the panel work to help guide the eye through the story, but you're using every single
yeah,
inch of that story too. So it's almost like a hack to really make the reader really ingest that entire page and really sit there and like
yeah,
admire the art because like I said, that panel
hmm
work, man, it's just that slow progression sometimes of crawling out of something, eggs hatching or
hmm
whatever they might be, or the battle
yeah,
that's itself, progressing its way through. It's just a really great way of making the reader slow down, really
yeah,
enjoy everything, really take in all the art and everything. So, yeah,
yeah.
it's another great benefit.
I mean, yeah, Marty is totally right. Like and for me, it's like a deep frustration of like I spent so much time on this page,
Yeah,
and like what I remember like this the first comic is like a little mini I did after college, and I was slow, and like hadn't, no, I was 22 years old, and like, so it would take like 2 weeks for me to do a page. Not
sure.
that I was working the whole time, but just like, that's that's when the page would get finished, like 2 weeks later. And then you just watch someone look at it, and it's just like, like turn the page, done, over, and it's like I spent so long on that. And so I feel like for me, there's always been like that in my mind, in like, how can I speed up my producing of work? so that I am not spending so many hours for someone to look at it for 15 seconds? And then also, how can I make it so people have to slow down?
Yeah.
Like how, like, so those two aspects of like, can I, and so some of the design stuff, it's like, I think it's like a visual thing. It's like, yeah, if you go quick, you're gonna miss it. Like, and
Right.
I remember somebody reviewing Hedra and saying they read it one time and didn't realize there was a story, and like because they had to go back and like look at it again, and all of a sudden they were like, oh wait, like that you can look at all the pages and not know what's going on,
Yeah.
because you need to sort of like puzzle it out,
Yeah.
in some way. And so yeah, that like balance of like, can I make it quicker? And I've done math in my head sometimes of like, well,
Yeah.
but if lots of people look at it for 15 seconds, then we can start adding all of those people up
Cumulative. It's
and all their
massive.
15
Yeah.
seconds, and maybe like the Mona Lisa is doing really, really well
Oh yeah.
because so many people have looked at it for so long. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how long he spent painting it, because that's how long people have spent looking at it, or the forgery or whatever's hanging in the Louvre. Like,
I'm
so
reminded of Clark
I-
Griswold going to the Grand Canyon and just pumping his chest and then walking away real quick when he's trying to beat the clock.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had, and Nick, maybe you shared this, I'm not sure, but I had a very unique experience while reading Drome, because Drome leans a lot on the mythological aspects in the hero's journey storyline. And Jesse, it would be crazy if you remember this, but the first Heroes Con that me, Nick, and our friend Stu had attended, we went to breakfast one morning, and I had this vivid memory of you and Tony McMillan walking into this breakfast joint, and you guys were like just pontificating over the nature of the hero's journey, and that you had just met the
Were we?
wizard on your journey to get breakfast that morning. And reading the book, because of the way that it's told and everything, it had a flashback right to that moment. I'm like, I was back at Heroes Con 2023. We were having breakfast, and I'm like, oh, that's my first Jesse Lonergan experience. That's really cool to remember that.
Yeah.
I told that story to say
Yeah.
that I looked over one of your Instagram posts, and you were talking about the inspirations for Drome. And of course, Greek mythology
Mhm.
played a big part of that. The other stuff, though, totally took me by surprise. There was Kafka, right? The nihilistic
Yeah.
philosophy. There's hard-boiled crime stories.
Yeah.
There's fairy tales. What is the
Yeah.
Venn diagram that is Jesse Lonergan?
I don't know. I guess like I feel like there's like this. I feel like there's a lot of contradictions, but like that what I find interesting in things is sort of like this push and pull. And so I like things like formulas, like I like genre, and I like the rules of genre. But then I also kind of like the chaos of Kafka, like where you're reading his story and it's like, I have no idea where this is going to go, like where it feels sort of like almost stream of consciousness at time. Like, everybody's read like the Metamorphosis, but like if you start reading like the short stuff, it's like these snippets are weird little snippets that, like, his story, some of them are like a paragraph, some of them 80 pages. I like that idea. I like the nihilism of Camus, this sort of like absurdism. Um, the hard boiled stuff, like if Jim Thompson is kind of think is about as nihilistic as you can get. Like,
Okay.
where and I like that. I guess I sort of, maybe as a quiet, reserved person, like these stories of like action where like I feel like those characters in hard boiled things, they don't know how to talk about their feelings at all. But like
No.
their feelings will like manifest in explosions and death and murder.
Sure.
And those stories I find kind of interesting, maybe because I'm like, hesitate to use my horn while I'm driving a car. Like, so I feel like there's like violence and order and chaos sort of feeding into it. But yeah, it's my influences. I kind of feel are all over the place.
Where okay, I gotta ask, where does Videodrome fall into that equation? Because I saw you were rocking
Oh,
the Cronenberg shirt in one of your interviews here.
yeah, I love Videodrome, and I would put that like in the Kafka territory where like you can watch it, and I feel like with some movies, great movies, Indiana Jones, you know how it's gonna end. Like you don't know, like
Yeah.
he's gonna win.
Wait, he
Like
made
like
what?
like yeah, he's gonna
Spoilers.
make it. Like whatever, he's getting off that bridge. Don't worry, he's not gonna die. Like the that truck that he looks like he's gonna go off the edge, he's not. Like Videodrome
Right.
is the total opposite. It's like I don't know if he's gonna win. I don't know if I want him to win. Like it's that that aspect, and I guess I like I feel like that era people could get away with more. People were more comfortable being weird, and like I feel there's a sort of self consciousness now, and also just the amount of money that everything demands. It seems on in
Yeah.
like a film level that like you can't have things be that weird. like, because someone will second guess, someone will doubt, and I think a creator, even as myself, I feel it too. Like it's this. I think in the world we're living, we're all very aware of, or we should be very aware of how things that we say can be taken by people you have no personal relationship with. Like
Yeah.
it's like that social media thing of like you should realize that you are potentially talking to everybody. Like if whatever you're about to say goes viral, like you are talking to everybody, and so be ready for that and be aware of that possibility.
Yeah.
Because you might think what you're saying about your job is cool, but if a million people start responding to it, you might lose your job.
Heck, a million.
Like
We reach our audiences, and every week we tell about our we share our opinions on all kinds of things, and so we definitely
oh
get
no,
some
I
feedback
don't
every
mean
once in a while,
like
too.
I guess I just
So
don't mean I don't mean like sharing your opinions, but it's like I don't know, like the psychological stuff that you're uncomfortable with. We all have those
right.
things that we are uncomfortable with, and I think
Yeah.
David Cronenberg has those things that he's uncomfortable with that he's like exploring.
Oh yeah.
And I think it gets harder now to do that just
Sure.
because we're self-conscious.
Well, there's so many people that would ask, well, what did you mean behind that? And is that how you really
Right,
feel? And
yeah.
it's like, yeesh, okay.
Yeah, it's not how I feel, but it's there.
It's
Yeah.
part of the human experience to contemplate things.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
inquire things and let's be reasonable about it. Right.
Yeah.
And I know, speaking of just like style, just in general, what I love
Mhm.
about some of your work is like what I can't figure out in my mind as a non-artist kind of a person are two distinct types of style. So when I read some of your work like Drome or whatever else, in Godzilla, even something like that,
Mhm.
you have a very distinct style and it's recognizable instantly. But some of the cover work and
Mhm.
whatnot that you're doing also seems like a totally different style sometimes. It's a little bit more
Yeah.
animated, a little more cartoonish,
Mhm.
characterized, things like that. Can you talk about what that are they does that live in two different places in your mind? How, is that just to kind of stretch a little bit or play
Yeah.
around in areas you haven't played around in a lot? Like where does that come from?
Yeah. I I definitely feel with myself, and sometimes the way in my head I feel like I'm different from other artists is like I can't do the same thing.
Right.
Like I always like the grass is always greener, and so like I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I could just sort of drill down on this sort of whatever style of art I'm doing in my comics and just do that and
Right.
focus on that. But it's like, but I also like this other like I like this like cartoony manga almost ish like kind of weirdness. Like I like that as well, and I want to explore that. And then sort of like finding in my head sometimes like they don't fit together It's like, well, you can't really do that within this world. Like you can't.
Right.
It's like if I draw the way I draw, and if one character has like manga eyes, it's like, oh, you can't do that in this comic because none of the other characters have
Doesn't fit. Right.
manga eyes. It's weird. It doesn't
Yeah.
fit. And it's like, but I like
want to.
that style as well. I like, like, and I don't, and so I don't know. It's sort of like, yeah, different brain ways of thinking. And like, so with like Panda Delivery Service, which you mentioned on Patreon, it's much less panel design driven, and it's much more this sort of maximalist surrealism cartoony thing. And it's me, trying to explore making that work. Still not sure if it quite will. But yeah, like there's just like different things I like to try and play with. And I find that with tools as well. Like um, using different tools makes me like think in different ways and have different ideas and stuff. And so like I regularly struggle with watercolor, and like it's just a different way of thinking, and I like that. It feels good. It feels like new ideas come from that sort of stuff. And I think I just always want to sort of be trying to do something new, even if it maybe doesn't feel like something new to other people. Like for me, there's some aspect that seems new.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to want to stretch different parts of your brain I mean, you'll never grow as an artist. It helps with growth and maturity to kind of play around with different styles and try to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I think I saw your was it Animal Man? I think it was on Blue Sky. I think you just recently did the watercolor for that. It looks great, by the way. Colors are way better on Blue Sky than Instagram. So there you go.
It's weird. I was like, why did Instagram do that? Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's not what it looked like. And so like that, like the way of putting down, defining a shape with watercolors as opposed to like lots of line work. It's just like it's like a totally different part of my brain, and it's like doing color on paper as opposed to doing color digitally. It's like, yeah, you botched it, like, and you're not just going to be able to like delete and be like, well, the drawing was good, and start over on the colors. It's like, no, that one's gone.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
But it's a different way of thinking, and like it ultimately it will have some effect on the way I draw and the way I make stuff, but I don't know what it will be.
Well, I do love the fact that you guys brought up Panda Delivery Service here and talking about the changing styles, because like one of the first times that I'd reached out to you is when you first had released We Ride at Night, and it is such a cool juxtaposition in styles, because this is very much a superhero comic that is gritty, and it shows a version. It's kind of like a Walter Hill version of Batman, going through Gotham and doing his Batman type things, but it's so totally different. So like, that has to keep things kind of fresh in your mind too. But I bring up the book as well because you were talking about the tools of the trade, and one of the coolest things that happens in this book is that you break down like all of the tools being used, including the Mr. Freeze action figure, which I freaking loved so much. It's so great, man, seeing this kind of stuff. It's such a cool way to display this kind of stuff. But knowing kind of where you are in your project timeline right now, we see Panda Delivery Service and everything coming out right now. Can we anticipate a pivot back to something like We Ride at Night, or do you have anything kind of ruminating in your mind already?
Yeah, I think so. Like We Ride at Night, like, was sort of, I think like the way I draw, and it's kind of obvious with Jerome. It's like very controlled. Like you don't get that kind of dense paneling if you're like super chilled out. Like my personality comes across, I think, pretty clearly in this obsessive need to stick everything on the exact same grid for 300 pages. And like, I think probably never repeat a layout, like ever, like despite this obsession with being on a grid, like I'm not going to repeat myself. It's all going to be iterations, and sort of the way that that drawing went along with that. And then like we were at night, I was like, I want as like much noise on the page as possible. So like I'm gonna use like a Pilot Parallel pen for most of the drawing because that just like all the fine detail work and control you can get with a brush, it's gone. Like it's like lots of scratches, and then I'm gonna put stamps on there and tone on there. I'm gonna use colored pens, like black and white colored pencils. Ink spatter, stamps for lettering. Like I used a Dymo label maker. Like kind of just trying. I think if Drome like sounds like Kraftwerk or something, just like trying to get like a Ramones sounding like thing and rewrite at night. And I think it's something I definitely will continue to play with and explore. It all comes down to time, of course. Like, how much time I feel I have, how much freedom I feel I have.
Well, and I love the use of the roller as well. Like we've seen you like post videos of that too. And forgive me, my monkey brain doesn't know the proper term for it. Maybe it is just roller, but like
it's a roller or brayer.
Okay, yeah. Something gets me psyched every time I see you use that. Like there's something about it. I'm like, oh, the picture isn't complete until I see the roller come out.
Yeah. There's something I feel for me like that. Probably because of how like digital everything's gotten, like seeing something being done manually, like I just find exciting that like, and it doesn't necessarily even need to be done that well. Like in fact, sometimes I think because we have, especially now with like this rise of AI doing these like perfect garbage drawings, like it's like, oh, I want something that's a little like fucked up, I like with like those sorts of drawings. It's like I want something where it's like, oh, I might ruin it. I'm using this like 2-inch wide like rubber roller and a stamp pad to create the tones. It's like, yeah, you might make a mistake, and I think that's part of the fun, but also like not really gonna make a mistake. It's like it's mistakes I feel like are kind of built into the way I draw. When I'm drawing like that, it's part of the fun.
Yeah, you can tell the generation that grew up with Bob Ross, right? With just planting a giant tree right in the middle of this perfect scenic landscape. You trust it, big black line, that it turns out to be a masterpiece. And I think you and Jeffrey Allen Love have cornered the market on rollers, right? So I think that you guys are doing
it was. I think it was probably me like struggling with watercolor and like being like just not doing it very well, but wanting to do color on paper and like, well, maybe I can use like stamps. And then like I think just actually using like a blank stamp and then just being like seeing like a video of Jeffrey Allen Love or something, being like, oh yeah, just use a roller.
Way easier. Yeah,
and it was like way easier. He's so much more precise, I feel, than I am, and gets these like perfect silhouettes. And I'm much more on the noise end. I'm like,
everybody has their strengths. Yeah, definitely great.
Yeah, it's okay. Just crank the distortion up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Another thing that actually Nick had started to touch on too is like we had talked about, Monty Keene. We've talked with him. I had brought up Tony McMillan, and you've done all these incredible variant covers and worked on things like a short story for Kaya with Wes Craig. The comic community, or let me rephrase this, portions of the comic community feel very tight knit, and that's like a really cool thing. So when it comes to the creation of all these stories and the comic books that you come up with, like how much of a collaborative process is this? Not necessarily working together, but like using springboards or being like, check out this picture, like look at check out what I'm working on. What are you working on?
I don't know. I think like there are. I feel for me maybe there's like a quiet collaboration just because everybody's able to share everything now and you can see things. there's sort of like this constant like taking of stuff in, and I see, Jeffrey Allen Love do this thing. I'm like, oh, that's a cool way to do it that I definitely would not have thought of on my own, but without necessarily. I mean, I have met Jeffrey Allen Love, and we've hung
Yeah.
out and talked, and we're friends who see each other once a year. Um, but like potentially I never meet him, but like I can feel this sort of back and forth. And then there are people I talk to. I talk to Tony a lot, and stuff, and like with Drome, I talked to him about the title a lot, like so much, and like his his work I find inspirational, um, and like his attitude, and I don't know, everything. Like also like his productivity, like he's always got something new and good. Like I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and he's just like going with it. He's like, yeah, I just did 50 pages. I'm like, what? Like, how did he do that many pages? And so there is a bit of back and forth, and a bit of collaboration, and ideas flowing around. But then there's also like kind of extreme solitude at the same time, of like I'm just sitting at a desk, and
Yeah.
and I feel sometimes with at least the way, maybe it's the way everybody thinks. It's like I don't. If Tony or Marty were to tell me about something, I would probably be like, yeah, I need to see it. Yeah. So could you finish it, and then I'll tell you what I think, because it for some reason I find, and the same thing with my stuff. It's like, I'll be like, I have this idea for how a story about a panda dressed as a shark as a delivery man would work, and it's just like, yeah, I think I'll need to see that before I can offer an opinion on whether it works or not. And so it's sort of like you're kind of having to trust yourself a lot, because I think in sort of like with all, I kind of think it's true with all mediums. Like if somebody told you what a song sounds like, you'd be like, I guess I need to hear it. Like I don't think you could get around it. Like it's like, well, the drums come in. Like it's like, no, that's not the same. And so there's sort of like that aspect that of so much of it remaining in your head, that has to come out before anyone can contribute, which is different if you're working on a project literally together, where a writer and an artist, or whatever combination, where there's a little bit more of a back and forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a mix. I think it definitely doesn't feel as collaborative as like music, like where two people making music together, there's this deep synergy, and I haven't felt that in terms of making comics, that level of collaboration.
It is nice to have that passive influence, though, because like you said, we live in this digital age with social media, so it's like people are constantly just throwing stuff out there all the time, and on a daily basis, I look at stuff and go, wow, that's incredible. I haven't seen that before.
Oh yeah.
So like the influence stealing is just everywhere for sure, and there's a passive way of doing that kind of thing, but yeah.
And there's also like no time constraint on it. Like someone could show me something from 30 years ago, that's like, oh, you missed this, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden there's this like whole world, and you can find it in some way or another, which I'm 46, and so like I remember before the internet, where like things were rumored, and like, good luck finding it, like like and I think people, I feel like people maybe forget, like, I don't know, like that Frank, I saw somebody posting something from like Frank Miller Wolverine. It's like, when I was in high school, that wasn't easy to get. Like you would have to find the single issues, because I don't think it had been collected. Like, definitely my comic shop didn't have it, and like there were no bookstores that had it. There was no way to order online. Like, it was like, that was rumored. Like I was like, oh, there's a Frank Miller does anyone have it? And I grew up in rural Vermont, so it's like, Scott doesn't have it, Jeremiah doesn't have it. I guess
Yeah.
nobody has it.
Nobody has
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that was like a hoverboard for me in Back to the Future too. There was a friend of a friend who had a cousin who definitely had the real hoverboard. It exists, and I was like,
Oh
God,
yeah,
I
for
need that
sure.
in my life so badly.
Yeah, I know. Just a little bit on collaboration. I know you've had the opportunity to be like artist only on a lot of projects as well, working with a
Mhm.
writer and some other folks and
Mhm.
whatnot. So I'm always curious about like what that perspective is versus doing your own work where you're doing everything. I'm sure there's instances
Mhm.
where you're like, well, that was an interesting idea to turn the story and go this direction or play with the pacing like this or approach the story in this kind of a way. I never would have thought about that. Or maybe that's not a great
Yeah.
idea. I think I have but it's your vision. I'll sit back. So I'm sure there's a lot of that going on too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a collaboration,
Mhm.
so it should come out different than
Oh, of
either
course.
of us alone. And so yeah, there's definitely like not necessarily a back and forth, but like, okay, this is your responsibility. This is my responsibility.
Mhm.
And I think it definitely leads to stories that I wouldn't tell on my own. Like I sort of I like certain kinds of stories, but recognize that I will never write that kind of story. Like so like I like hardboiled detective fiction. I will never write a hardboiled detective fiction story. Like it's just not like I might write something weird with a detective, but it's going to be weird.
Mm.
It won't be hard boiled. It won't work in the way those things work. But if I work with someone, like they can have that idea, or something like with Arco with Van
Mhm.
Jensen, where like this sort of the level of like the intricacy of the culture isn't something that my brain goes towards. Like
Mm.
like I don't hierarchical sort of relationships and sort of those sorts of things, but Vans does, so I get to sort of explore it without having to do it.
That's true. Yeah.
And yeah, and so there's that aspect, and then there's also sort of like figuring out how to make these ideas work, like visually, where it's sort of it's it's never the way I feel like when I do it on my own, it's so art driven. Like if I have an idea, I'm like, this is visually compelling, I'll just push everything off until later. And I'll be like, I want to do this image. It's going to be a 2-page spread because it'll look really awesome. And writers, I don't think ever think that way. And so, like it, the way the story is told is generally very different from the way I would do it on my own. And there's also, dialogue and talking and stuff, which on my own I will generally try to avoid.
Yeah. I guess it allows you again to play in a sandbox you wouldn't put yourself in necessarily. So makes you push
Right.
forward.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it can also be interesting, like working with like Mike Mignola on Miss Truesdale.
Yeah. Can't wait.
And
Yep. Yeah.
we did a first series in 2023, and we have a new one coming out
Yep.
this year, where it's creatively. I wouldn't feel comfortable drawing something like that on my own because it's the Hellboy universe, and so like
It's like sacred
like
in a
I
way.
might want to draw something in the Hellboy universe, but it's like, well, I won't do it on my own because everyone will look at it and be like, "Oh, you're just doing Hellboy." But if now, because I'm getting paid to work within the Hellboy universe, it's like, oh, I get to explore like these ideas in this sort of setting and this aesthetic, and sort of
Yeah.
incorporate it into what I'm doing in a way that I probably would be uncomfortable doing on my own.
That's an interesting thing to think about. So when you first started working with Mike, were there like, I don't want to say pitch sessions, but like were there like a working process of like how your interpretation of the world was going to look?
There. I mean, I did like initial sketches of things, but with the first series, a lot of it had already been defined to a degree. Like it's set in Hyperborea, and like there hadn't been much of Hyperborea, but there'd been sort of enough, so that there was like a bit of research, and then like character designs and stuff, and sending those to Mike and having him comment on those. He sort of had the story fully formed when he reached out to me,
Oh, okay.
to be a part of it. And so like narratively, I mean he had the story, and then he left. I think I sent him when he asked me if I wanted to do it, like maybe the first two chapters of Drone at whatever state they were at the time, and he was just like, yeah, I don't know how to write this. So he just sort of, I think, just sort of left me space. Just was like, oh, page 5, the fight continues.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Just keep going. Like page 12, she goes down the river, and sort of, I think he realized to get like the weird layout stuff, you can't really write it. I can't write it. Like I diagram. That's my writing process. And so he sort of left me a lot of space to do that. And at some point, and with Rise of Man, it's much more Marvel method, where he sort of has the narrative, but not much text and not much dialogue. And then, I do the finished pages and send them to him, and he gives whatever feedback. And then I don't necessarily see like what the dialogue is, until I see like the lettering proof, which is sort of a weird position to be in, because Mike Mignola is Mike Mignola,
Right.
and he's the nicest person, but like the things he's accomplished, the respect I have for him as an artist, like it's he's on a pedestal a bit, and like for me to be like, I think I've given him enough faces for a conversation. Like,
Right.
Like I've drawn a conversation. I don't know what they're gonna say. Mike will figure it out, and like
He'll fit it in.
for it to be like Mike will figure it out, it feels like I'm allowed to have just give him like 3 panels of people talking with no idea of what they're saying. But it's worked out, and I think Mike is such a pro. Like he's been doing this so long. He's done so much. He's so comfortable writing. Like I don't think it's a thought that crosses his mind. It's all in my head.
He's not losing any sleep over that decision. Or
I don't think so. He's like, oh, I gotta pack up my house.
Yeah. Well, you have no nails left, and you're just freaking out. Yeah.
Jesse, I wanted to circle back to something that you had said previously, and man, I'll be honest, it bums me out a little bit. You said you don't have a detective story in you, but I gotta say, the mystery of what the Runaway Donut story is feels so perfect for a detective story. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about here, it's something that's been posted on your Patreon here as kind of like a descriptor of part of Panda Delivery Service here. So not so much a question, but maybe a pitch. Just consider it, Jesse. Detective story, Runaway Donut, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're actually like the second person in like a couple of weeks to bring up that idea that I had, which was sort of like my pitch was it's Braveheart meets Dunkin' Donuts. And
oh my god!
I think it's something. My mind's a mess. Like that's just what it is. It's the problem, and so like I have this like aesthetic idea that's coming out in Panda Delivery Service, and the narrative form that I felt like I had to come up with to support that aesthetic idea, like it feels very delicate to me, and sort of when I was thinking about the Runaway Donut or Bravehearts meets Dunkin' Donuts, it was what Panda Delivery Service is, and it was too plot focused, like to to support the aesthetics that I wanted. But now, having done, I don't know where I'm at in Panda Delivery Service, 20 pages or something, and it'll probably end up being, I don't know, 50 maybe. I feel like I've sort of gotten that aesthetic out and like found a form for it. And now maybe I could go and do Runaway Donut in a way that would work for the story of Braveheart meets Dunkin' Donuts.
Color me excited.
Because I feel like the pitch is a good pitch. I feel like that's one, like if you're at a comic book convention and you say it's Braveheart meets Dunkin' Donuts, I feel like some people will be like not interested at all, but other people will be like yes. That's what I want.
Okay, it's a tastemaker kind of thing, you know. It's like, you know, you're cool, you get it. No, not so much you. Go away.
It's a good filtering technique, for sure. Well, that answers my Tim Hortons versus Duncan question. So I guess we can move on from.
I grew up in New England and lived in Boston area for a long time. So Tim Hort, are they in the South?
No, they're primarily in the North and Canada. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know how far east it goes, but I grew up in Western New York, so it was prevalent there. You start seeing it around Pennsylvania. Maybe it's like around the Great Lakes. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. The Tim Hortons is one I just know from Canada. I grew up in northern Vermont, and so Montreal is actually like the closest big city.
Yeah. So you know about them, sure. Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts is just. I feel like a little New England pride about Dunkin' Donuts, but but I don't feel like I have the delusional pride of like it's the best coffee. Like I feel like here I'm in Pennsylvania now, and it's Wawa, and
Wawa,
people think Wawa has amazing coffee. It's like no, they're all gas station coffee. It's all like, I have no taste. I will drink anything. I will drink coffee from anywhere. But it's like I recognize this as basic coffee. This is coffee that comes in a styrofoam cup, and like that's what it tastes like, and that's fine. It does the job. It works great.
Eric, are we sponsored by Wawa? I can't remember.
Oh, not anymore.
Make sure.
Yeah,
not anymore.
Yeah.
So Sheets, here you come, Sheets. That's another brand that can sponsor us. That'd be great.
Is there a San Francisco one? There's no Wawa in San Francisco. No Dunkin' Donuts.
No, I've never even heard of them. Yeah, I could always ask you the In-N-Out versus any other burger joint kind of question though.
Okay. No, Wawa I think is very, maybe it's growing now, but it's very focused on like the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland area, I think.
Yeah, it's creeping south. Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
A little bit. Like Sheets is on the East Coast, a little bit right on the coast, and the Carolinas, things like that. Wawa's dripping down a little bit. So yeah.
Well, Jesse, we want to be respectful of your time here. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I do have one final question though, because I kind of have an obsession with the About Me section of people's, websites and how they define themselves. So
I don't Jesse, even know what's on
I'm really curious. What was the last thing that you rubbed your hands together villainously over?
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Well, that's me.
It just happens like when I'm nervous. It was probably like waiting for my daughter to go to school this morning. Like, I was just like, and it wasn't like there's sort of two. There's like a nervous one, which was this morning, and then there's like an excited one, which would, I don't know, probably be like before I ate something. But yeah, it is something I do. It's kind of subconscious. Which I feel like, I don't know. I'm always confused about the About Me section because it's like, one, I have to pretend I'm writing it as somebody else or something, and then it's got to be like personal, but like who cares? Like, so yeah, there used to be one that was like I always check the soles of my shoes before I put them on. Because I don't know why. Like there's something about the wear inspecting the wear on the soles of my shoes that it's like before I put my shoes on, I just check the bottoms to see how they're doing.
Well, see, but there you go. That's the exact reason why I obsess over the About Me section, because there is thought, there's care put behind those things. But Jesse, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, man. We appreciate all your insight, your knowledge, and the conversation. Do you have anything you want to plug before we head out?
I mean, Drome's out. It's in stores. It's available. I'll be at New York Comic Con in the middle of October. So if you're in the New York area, come say hello. Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man is coming out in December. First issue of a 4-issue series. Then I'll be at Massachusetts Independent Comics Expo in December. I think that's about it.
And you can catch pretty much every major title has a variant cover from you coming out as well, which is exciting. Always awesome to see that too. Your variant game is on point. I love it.
Well, Jesse, again, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you.